Imagine going to school a normal high schooler, only to wake up framed for the brutal slaughter of your entire class. This is Gonta, the absolute definition of cursed. His life was less than ordinary until a sudden, catastrophic event turned his whole world upside down. Out of nowhere, while he's sitting in class, a monstrous, terrifying beast breaks in, ruthlessly slaughtering everyone in sight and tearing the entire room apart. But when it reaches Gonta, instead of killing him, it embeds a mysterious, unknown power directly into his chest, knocking him unconscious. When he finally comes to, he finds himself in a hospital bed, with the police waiting to arrest him for the mass murder of his classmates. Talk about the ultimate, "are you seriously blaming me for this?" moment. Guys, I swear I'm innocent. I didn't do anything. He keeps screaming this until he remembers the monster striking his chest. He rips open his shirt to show them the proof, but there's absolutely nothing there. Trapped with no way out, he has no idea how to convince them. To make things worse, he next finds himself standing in a courtroom, listening to the judge sentence him to death. Like, is this real life or what? Ganta's mind is about to explode. Death penalty. You've got to be kidding me. He fights against the guards holding him, yelling, "How could a regular high schooler wipe out an entire classroom? Stop this absolute circus, please." But his girlfriend's father loses his temper, beating our protagonist and screaming that his daughter was the only child he had. Ganta still doesn't understand why people think he's the killer. Suddenly, they play a video showing Ganta himself, telling his lawyer that he was the one who finished off all his classmates, wanting the lawyer to get him off the hook on the basis that he's just a student who couldn't possibly pull off such a crime. Ganta freezes in shock. How am I in this video? What am I even saying? I literally didn't do anything. He desperately prays for all of this to be a horrific nightmare. Unfortunately, it isn't. And what he has experienced so far is just the prologue to a much greater nightmare. They transport him straight to Deadman Wonderland, the most dangerous prison on Earth. In this twisted place, inmates wear a heavy metallic collar around their necks, displaying a countdown timer. If those numbers hit 0, they die instantly. The only way to extend their life is by eating a special candy to reset the timer. Inside the prison walls, inmates face every imaginable form of physical and psychological torture. It gets so brutal that Ganta actually starts wishing for death rather than spending another single day here. He can't even wait around for his scheduled execution. While standing there wallowing in despair and wishing it would all end, he crosses paths with a strange girl named Shiro. She starts chatting with him, leaving him completely baffled as to who she is or what she's doing there. Their conversation is cut short when a gang of prison bullies steps in, targeting Ganta because he's the only death row inmate among them. They try to beat him up, but Shiro steps in, showing off some surprisingly solid martial arts skills. However, one of the inmates catches her off guard with a cowardly strike to the head, knocking her out cold. Ganta's sense of manhood and honor kicks in, and he steps up to fight the guy, but the entire gang swarms him, beating him mercilessly. Suddenly, a massive explosion rocks the facility. A huge chunk of the building is about to crush them all to death. In that split second, Ganta realizes he refuses to die like this. The demonic power planted inside his heart suddenly manifests, unleashing a devastating blast that shatters the structure and saves them from certain doom. Afterward, he immediately rushes over to check if Shiro is okay. Touched by his kindness and protection, she tells him that, from this day on, they are officially best friends. Later, Ganta meets the prison doctor who bandages his wound and reassures him he'll heal quickly. She asks if he's on death row, and when he says yes, she asks if he has eaten his candy yet. Ganta is completely bewildered, thinking, I'm fighting for my life here, and this crazy lady is talking about candy. She explains that his first dose should have been in the dynamic starter bag they handed him upon arrival. Ganta replies that he didn't see any candy there. The doctor warns him that he needs to consume one as soon as humanly possible. Right then, Yo, Ganta's cellmate, speaks up, suggesting the candy might have dropped out when he accidentally bumped into him earlier. Apologizing once again, Ganta assures him it's fine and that it was just an accident. After the doctor leaves, Ganta vents to Yo about how brutally harsh the guards are. Yo sighs, telling him his hands are tied, and that this is just how things run around here. He advises Ganta that if he wants to survive, he has to play by the rules, no matter how unfair they are. Suddenly, Shiro drops down from a ceiling vent like a ghost, shouting, Ganta, let's play. Honestly guys, this girl's elevator doesn't go all the way to the top. Her sudden drop scares the living daylights out of both of them. Yo thinks she's a monster, but she snaps back, hey, I'm no monster, you weakling. I'm Shiro, Ganta's friend. She keeps begging Ganta to play, telling him there's a place inside the prison filled with games. Yo realizes she must be talking about the dog race, one of the brutal shows the inmates perform in an amusement park setting to gain public funding. He mentions that you have to be incredibly fast because the first place winner receives a staggering 100,000 cast. Ganta Ganta asks what caste even means, and Yo chuckles, realizing Ganta hasn't touched the rulebook. He explains that caste is the official currency used by prisoners in Dead Man Wonderland. Without caste points, you can't buy food, but if you amass enough caste, you can buy clothes, cigarettes, and even alcohol. Heck, if you're filthy rich, you can literally buy your way out of your sentence. Plus, just for signing up, they give you a bag of sweet bean bread even if you lose. Hearing this, Ganta decides to sign up. Shiro instantly bursts into ecstatic screams. Sweet bean bread. Sweet bean bread. Ganta tries to quiet her down, yelling, "Shut up. Have you never eaten before? You're embarrassing us." Everyone's staring. She runs off, but Ganta is stopped by the chief guard, Kiwako. She tells him she heard he's entering the dog race and warns him to read chapter 1 of the rulebook very carefully because this is no ordinary prison. She promises him he's going to see absolute hell. Meanwhile, we cut to Yo, who turns out to be a spy for the warden, Tsunanaga Tamaki. He reports that Ganta is signing up for the dog race today. Moving to the contestants preparing for the show, we see Ganta reading his rulebook while others train. Among them is the sneaky Yo, who pressures Ganta to participate despite not being fully recovered yet, using the excuse that a man's got to make a living. Their conversation is cut short by a massive guy named Senji, who is clearly the top dog around here. The moment the other prisoners see him, most of them forfeit on the spot. Yo tells Ganta that Senji is a Taekwondo gold medalist and a two-time D1 mixed martial arts champion, calling him a lethal warrior. However, he lost everything and hit rock bottom all because a female celebrity on a variety show refused to give him her email address. As soon as Senji spots the rookie Ganta, he decides to assert his dominance at the poor kid's expense. He slaps him with a book, knocking him flat, and begins barking orders, proving that a bully only knows how to strike fear. Right after, he grabs Yo and beats him to a pulp too. Just then, Shiro happily walks in carrying her favorite sweet bean bread. Seeing Ganta sprawled on the ground, she steps right over Senji's leg, asking, "What's wrong, Ganta? Are you sick?" Infuriated, Senji snaps, "You miserable brat. You're just like that trashy celebrity." Shiro is probably thinking, "Did you bring me here just to insult me?" Before he can lay a hand on her, the chief guard grabs his hand, slashing his clothes with her sword as a fierce warning. An unfortunate guard tells everyone to put on their numbers and move because the race is about to begin. With everyone lined up, Ganta remembers a terrifying detail from the rulebook. Death row inmates are constantly injected with a slow-acting poison through their collars. If they don't eat at least one piece of the candy antidote every 3 days, they die. And a single piece costs a whopping 100,000 caste. Our protagonist has absolutely no choice. It's win or die. There is no plan B. The starting signal fires, and everyone bolts forward. But waiting for them is a massive, swinging blade contraption. Let's just say things are about to get incredibly bloody. Our hero gets nicked, watching in horror as his competitors are literally sliced into mincemeat. In the next phase, traps open fire on them. All the while, the twisted audience is cheering and taking photos like absolute vultures. Ganta manages to stay alive and avoid becoming part of the body count. He climbs a high ladder to a challenge involving skipping ropes, except some ropes are real, and others are lethal decoys. Our boy is about to lose his mind with fear as he watches people plunge to their deaths from above. Luckily, Shiro grabs him, and they leap together, landing safely. The surviving runners rush across a zigzagging bridge, but a barrage of arrows rains down on them. More people fall, but by some miracle, our heroes survive. Meanwhile, Senji grabs 2 of his own men, ruthlessly using them as human shields to clear the path. Finally, our heroes reach the final stage of the match alongside Senji. This time, the challenge is simple. Whoever carries the dead man ball to the finish line wins. As they sprint for the ball, Senji tackles Ganta, but Ganta manages to snatch the ball as he falls. At that moment, the floor panels start collapsing into the abyss. Ganta pushes through with pure courage, but within moments, Senji catches up to him. Thinking fast, Ganta hurls the ball to Shiro. The second she catches it, she slips, and Senji falls into the pit. Fortunately, Shiro manages to hang onto a ledge by her feet. Just as Ganta reaches her, she loses her grip. Ganta lets go of the ball entirely, catching her at the very last second. When Shiro asks him why he didn't catch the ball, he smiles and says, "Don't worry about it. We'll eat our bread together." The results flash on the screen. No winner. Ganta explains to Shiro that since he didn't win the prize money, he can't buy the antidote. By tomorrow, the poison in his collar will kill him. After eating the participation bread they received, Shiro happily tells him, "Let's eat together again," and runs off like a carefree child. Tears well well up in Gonta's eyes as he whispers, "Maybe tomorrow I'll be executed." Back in his cell, Gonta sits writing letters, only to rip them up. His final letter is to Mimi's father, swearing to him that he didn't kill Mimi or any of his friends, and stating that today is his execution day. Yo interrupts his solitude, announcing that the guards randomly assigned him as Gonta's new cellmate. Of course, it's no coincidence. He's still reporting to Tamaki. Yo reveals he's been looking for Gonta to finally give him the candy antidote, claiming he felt guilty for causing him to lose his first piece and wanted to make it up to him. Gonta takes it, thanking God he won't die, and deeply thanks Yo for his immense kindness. Little does he know the Arabic proverb fits perfectly here. He's holding a knife behind his back while shaking your hand. As Gonta consumes the candy, Yo wonders why Tamaki is so obsessed with this kid. He flashes back to Tamaki ordering him to spy on Gonta and report every single move in exchange for massive cast points, calling Gonta his ideal prisoner. On the other side of the facility, Tamaki receives a call that the goo system has failed and Red Dress is loose due to an unexplained glitch during the daily screening. Meanwhile, Yo buys Gonta an ice cream to celebrate their friendship. Gonta thanks him and takes a bite, reminiscing about the beautiful memories of his dead friends. Suddenly, Gonta clutches his chest and collapses to the ground as a piercing sound echoes, the exact same sound from the day of the massacre. Looking at the clock tower, he spots the Red Man, the very entity that slaughtered his classmates. A violent gale erupts. Yo is completely bewildered by what's happening. Sprawled on the ground, Gonta remembers his friends and rages. This monster is trying to kill my friends again. Blood begins pouring from the red crystal embedded in Gonta's chest. He launches a massive blood blast at the Red Man, leaving Yo completely paralyzed with shock at the power shooting from Gonta's hands. The Red Man vanishes. Tamaki is informed that the goo system is back online and has confirmed the clash with the Red Man. The containment team is moving in. Tamaki smiles ecstatic, saying, "Welcome to the stage of the real Dead Men Wonderland." When Gonta wakes up in the prison infirmary, Shiro tells him she heard there was a terrorist attack. Gonta thinks to himself, "My chest started hurting, and then I used that bizarre power, a power just like his." He overhears other inmates talking about seeing a guy in red with strange restraints. One inmate mentions seeing him years ago doing the exact same supernatural thing, destroying a factory wall. They reveal he's being kept in a secret area called G Block. Now knowing his target's location, Gonta breaks out of the infirmary. Meanwhile, the chief guard receives a fraudulent report claiming the incident was caused by an extremist human rights terrorist group. When she questions this, she's told that Director Tamaki stated things are fully under control. She mutters to herself, "I don't know what that sly fox is planning, but I have an idea." Inmate 5580, Gonta, is the prime suspect. He displayed an anomalous power, a highly dangerous weapon. She immediately triggers a red alert to capture him. The alarms blare, and they deploy Necro Macro, a terrifying security robot. The chief guard notes it hasn't been used in 4 years since a massive prisoner riot where it unfortunately slaughtered 24 people, causing it to be deemed unsafe. The entire sector goes into lockdown. All personnel are ordered to their desks and inmates to their cells. Gonta is ordered to report to the guard station immediately. Meanwhile, Tamaki is casually playing with toys like he's going through a delayed childhood. When Yo reports the lockdown, Tamaki brushes it off, saying, "That woman always overreacts. She has no idea the responsibility she'll face if Gonta gets hurt." When Yo asks about the incident, Tamaki explains that the Red Man, the source of all this chaos, is a desperate, repressed entity. He tells Yo, "Just take good care of Gonta. He's our guest of honor in the real Dead Men Wonderland," handing him a massive stack of cast cards as a reward. As the intercom keeps demanding Gonta surrender, Shiro is running alongside him, completely oblivious to where they are going. Suddenly, a massive security wall slams down, blocking their path. Yo catches up to them, warning Gonta that the doors are locked due to the red alert and begging him not to ignore orders so he doesn't get hurt. But Gonta fires back, "You saw the man in red, didn't you? He used that same freaky power to slaughter my friends. I heard they're keeping him in G Block. I have to find him." Yo tells them G Block doesn't even exist on the prison map. However, Shiro chimes in, saying she knows a secret passage that leads right there. Suddenly, the security robot corners them, scanning their faces. They dive into the secret tunnel just before the robot fires an explosive blast. The machine ruthlessly pursues them until they finally reach the destination area. The robot opens fire, but a guard reports to headquarters that they lost the targets and the robot has stopped responding. Furious, the chief guard snaps, "Did they vanish into thin air? This means there's a sector of Dead Men Wonderland completely outside my jurisdiction. Tamaki, you absolute piece of trash. I will deal with you." Deep inside the sector, our heroes are floored. surrounded by raging fires. Gonta apologizes to Yo and Shiro for dragging them into this mess. Just then, the robot closes in on them. Shiro fearlessly leaps forward, kicking the machine and bringing it down. They are stunned by her bravery as she stands atop the wreckage celebrating her victory. Yo yells at her to get down, but the relentless machine boots back up, scanning her face. Gonta unleashes his blood power at the absolute last second, blowing the machine apart to save her. Soldiers urgently contact Tamaki, reporting an emergency. Senji, Crow, has broken out of his old cell in G Block and is running wild. We see Senji effortlessly slicing the security robot into pieces using blades extending from his hands, like cutting slices of pizza. He spots Gonta and smirks. I'm ready for a little warm-up before tomorrow's match, if you're game. Gonta attacks, but Senji shatters his blast with his strange arm blade. Gonta prepares for the end as Senji approaches, asking, aren't you the kid who slaughtered his classmates? How long are you going to make me wait to see your branch of sin blood powers? Gonta finally realizes those bloody blades came from Senji's own blood, understanding that this power requires blood to manifest. He cuts his own hand, activating his branch of sin. Mistaking Senji for the Red Man, Gonta fires his blood spheres, shouting, this is for Mimi and my friends. With great effort, Senji deflects the attack, laughing hysterically. Man, you almost took my heart out. I don't know what you mean by your friends or a guy in a red cape, but you've got some serious skills. Gonta freezes, realizing this man isn't the Red Man at all. Senji introduces himself. The name's Crow. I don't know who you thought I was, but it's hilarious that you thought you and the Red Man were the only dead men here. Gonta asks, what do you mean by dead men? Senji laughs. Who else do you think lives in G Block, the absolute epicenter for dead men? Clearly, you don't know anything. It's always the naive ones who think they're special. You're just the latest arrival. Now, come here, pretty boy. As Senji lunges, Shiro delivers a fierce kick, yelling, he is off limits. The moment Senji looks at her, he recoils in absolute shock, looking like he's seen a ghost. He rips off his coat, throwing it at her and screaming, cover yourself up, woman. What is this scandalous outfit? Women these days have no shame. Seizing the distraction, Gonta shoots Senji with what looks like a toy gun shockwave, knocking him flat out. Gonta collapses right after, losing consciousness. Yo reports to Tamaki that G Block has been cleared and that they apprehended Shiro and Yo. While Shiro fights back, a guard notes she doesn't have an inmate number. Tamaki assumes it's just a system glitch. Elsewhere, a guard informs the chief guard that nothing is left of the security robot and no prisoner prints were found. She fumes, no one is behind this devastation but that absolute bastard Tamaki, and storms off to confront him. As guards escort Yo and Shiro, Yo asks why no one knows about G Block. The guard replies that the inmates kept there are highly dangerous anomalies carrying the branch of sin. Yo asks if it's a disease, but the guards just shrug, saying they don't know much, before throwing them into a room, stealing Yo's massive cast cards, and beating him. Gonta wakes up strapped to a lab bed, covered in wires. He screams in terror. Tamaki enters, saying, since you're new, we need to run some diagnostic tests. Please, stay still. The moment Gonta sees his face, he recognizes him. This guy was his defense attorney at the trial. Meanwhile, the doctor examines Senji, telling him his collarbone is shattered and he has 2 broken ribs. Senji realizes Gonta possesses a lethal cutting skill. The doctor tells him it's impossible for him to fight tomorrow and says she will inform the promoter, Tamaki. Infuriated, Senji grabs her by the hair, flashes a weapon, and snarls, stay out of my business, woman. Back in the lab, Tamaki boasts that his true job is being the promoter of Dead Men Wonderland. Gonta yells, what kind of crazy nonsense are you talking about? Tamaki calmly explains that he uses every trick and frame-up imaginable to bring powerful individuals here, his favorite method being fabricated charges. Gonta remembers the horrific courtroom video and realizes Tamaki had a master tech expert forge it. Enraged, Gonta screams, you did all of this, you four-eyed psycho. Unstrap me and I'll make sure you never see out of those eyes again. I'll kill you. He tries to activate his branch of sin. Tamaki just scoffs, don't get ahead of yourself, and presses a button on his console, sending a massive electric shock through Gonta's body, leaving him twitching in agony. Now, shall we behave? Tamaki asks. An assistant interrupts, warning that if he keeps shocking him, the test subject won't survive for tomorrow's match. Tamaki stops the current and asks Gonta, I bet you're curious about tomorrow, right? He brings up a screen, explaining that Gonta is the star of tomorrow's show against Crow, a battle between 2 branch of Sin wielders. He reveals these lethal matches happen every day in G Block. Win, and you get massive cast points and your life-saving can. Keep winning, and you might eventually face the entity you're so obsessed with. Gonta gasps, who are you talking about? Tamaki replies, you'll find out soon enough. Just know you were allowed to live because you caught the eye of that insane monster you call the Red Man, who happens to be the original source of the branch of Sin infection and the most lethal prisoner in this facility. His name is Wretched Egg. He points to a mascot on the screen announcing tomorrow's launch of the Carnival Corpse, the ultimate underground death match for those infected by the branch of Sin, which first appeared 10 years ago after the catastrophic Red Hole incident. The match only ends when one fighter dies. Gonta watches footage of past losers dying horribly on screen. He completely snaps, bursting into tears and sobbing, I don't want to do this. At that moment, the chief guard breaks into the office to confront Tamaki. Meanwhile, Senji is working out intensely, determined to crush his opponent. In the holding cell, Yo is absolutely furious about his stolen cards, muttering, those idiots have no idea how many millions of cast points those cards were worth. Shiro insists they have to break out and save Gonta, but Yo points out the doors are heavily fortified and their previous route is completely sealed. They meet a brand new plan. The next day, the Carnival Corpse officially kicks off. The announcer explains the rules. The fight goes on until one opponent is completely immobilized or dead. The fighters enter the arena. Immediately, Senji uses a sharp ring on his finger to slice his hand and draw blood. Gonta doesn't have a sharp tool, so he ruthlessly bites his own hand to draw blood. Boom! Senji manifests massive blood swords from his arms. Gonta turns and runs for his life. Senji mocks him, oh, so we're playing hide and seek now? This kid is a joke. Gonta climbs up a massive tree structure in the arena, desperately trying to charge his blood blast before he gets sliced into pieces. He fires his attack at Senji, who effortlessly blocks it and deflects every follow-up shot. Suddenly, Gonta turns pale and shivers intensely from severe cold. Senji notes that Gonta's body has hit its absolute limit due to massive blood loss. Up in the observation booth, Tamaki and the doctor are watching. The doctor notes, an adult can lose about 2 liters of fluid, but a boy Gonta's age will go into hemorrhagic shock and die after losing just 1.5 liters. Senji slices the massive tree branch, sending Gonta crashing to the ground. The fall deepens his wounds, causing him to bleed out even faster. The doctor reviews Gonta's medical data and tells Tamaki, the strange mass inside Gonta's chest matches our theories. It's the exact same type of worm crystal that appeared in various locations after the Red Hole disaster. We are still analyzing the sample, but we can't confirm anything without surgically opening his chest to examine it directly. Tamaki replies, he's all yours, gorgeous. After all, every dead man here is already on death row. Gonta lies in a pool of his own blood, paralyzed. Senji walks over, saying, come on, kid, show me that cutting technique you used yesterday. Or was that just pure fluke? Believing the match is over since Gonta can't move, Senji turns to walk away. Suddenly, Gonta grabs Senji's leg, drags himself up, and fires a blood blast at a massive iron cage suspended above Senji's head. Senji instantly shatters the falling cage, but Gonta uses the distraction to place his hand directly against Senji's chest, unleashing a direct, devastating shockwave blast that sends Senji flying across the arena. Against all odds, Gonta is declared the winner. Meanwhile, someone manages to help Yo and Shiro escape their cell. The man tells Yo, I think the girl you've been looking for is locked up deep in G Block. Yo exclaims, you found a way in, didn't you? The man smirks, sure did, but everything comes with a price. Soon, we'll find out exactly who this girl is that Yo is searching for. Back in the infirmary, Gonta consumes his hard-earned candy antidote to ensure his survival, holding his prize money and a bouquet of flowers from the match. As they wheel him out, they pass Senji. Senji stops him, saying, I won't forget you, kid, and shakes his hand. Gonta is relieved, thinking that while Senji seemed terrifying at first, maybe they could actually end up being friends. Suddenly, a broadcast interrupts the TV screen, announcing it's time for the Carnival Corpse post-match event, the penalty game. The doctor starts up a twisted slot machine. It lands on Senji's right eye. It looks like they're about to carve it right out. Boom! They sedate him and prep him for surgery, ruthlessly gouging his eye out. Watching the horrific scene from a monitor, Gonta breaks down. Suddenly, the control room fills with a massive cloud of smoke. A guard goes to investigate, only to find Shiro running absolute amok, smashing the facility. An emergency alert blares across the SR wing, requesting immediate combat support to stop a massive system breach. When the dispatch team asks how many rioters there are, the guard yells, it's just one girl with white hair. The main power grid to the sector is completely cut. We see Shiro standing amid amidst absolute devastation. The guards are hiding from her in sheer terror, completely baffled by how she suddenly calmed down out of nowhere. Shiro mutters softly, "The lullaby has stopped." Just then, the heavy tactical squad arrives to apprehend her. Nearby, Yo is fleeing, thinking to himself, "Shiro paid the price for trusting me. I knew she'd use her own stupidity to distract them so I could escape." Suddenly, a massive explosion rocks Shiro's location, sending debris and flesh flying everywhere. Yo stops in shock, crying, "I'm such an idiot." Meanwhile, the corrupt guards who stole Yo's cards try to use them to buy drinks at a machine. They are utterly paralyzed with shock when the screen reads a balance of 90 million cast. They can't comprehend how a kid could possess that kind of wealth. Well, we all know why, but we're definitely not telling them. Yo wipes his tears and says, "Where is the path to G Block?" He flashes back to imagining Shiro covered in blood, but shakes it off, muttering, "I didn't see anything. It has nothing to do with. I have something much more important to take care of." On the other side, Gonta is resting in his G Block cell with food by his side. He reflects on how much Shiro and Yo have stood by him through so many horrific situations, feeling deeply worried about them. Suddenly, he hears a girl screaming outside, "Please, Masu, don't eat my flowers. I love my flowers." This is Minutsuki, and the massive inmate Masu is starving. This guy literally eats anything in sight. Gonta quickly offers Masu his own food, and the giant literally swallows the entire meal along with the tray. Before Masu can lunge at Minutsuki, Gonta pulls her away, and they hide inside her room. Gonta is completely awed by the beauty of her room, which is entirely filled with stunning flowers. She looks at him and asks, "You're Gonta, right?" He replies, "Yeah, I guess you saw my match in the Carnival Corpse yesterday." Minutsuki introduces herself, and Gonta suddenly breaks into tears, telling her he has never seen a more terrifying place in his entire life. Minutsuki comforts him, saying, "It's because we possess a power that no one else has. A power that forces us to hurt one another, even if we don't want to." She grabs his clothes, crying, "I just wish all of this would end." Gonta's face turns bright red from embarrassment. Trying to break the awkward tension, he blushes, "Wow, your flowers smell amazing." Minutsuki smiles warmly, "You're the amazing one. You're so sweet." And boom, she suddenly unzips her dress. Talk about an absolute plot twist. Gonta panics. "Whoa, what are you doing?" Minutsuki shows him her heavily scarred body, explaining that her father treated her with horrific cruelty. She reveals she lost her mother during the Red Hole disaster when she was a child. After that, her father became intensely violent. She endured years of relentless beatings and abuse until she finally hit her absolute breaking point. She used her blood power and killed him. She notes that her older brother knew nothing about her powers and was completely convinced she was framed, because how could a regular high school girl brutally murder her father? Her brother was incredibly kind and did everything in his power to protect her. She cries to Gonta, saying she hates using this power and never wants to hurt anyone in the Carnival Corpse again. Gonta looks at her resolutely and says, "We have to escape. No matter what it takes. We both have the branch of sin power. We can do this." Meanwhile, we see Yo knocking out a guard for a mysterious reason we'll discover shortly. Back with Gonta and Minutsuki, they try to flee, but guards corner them, delivering a shocking announcement. The two of them are officially scheduled to fight each other in tomorrow's Carnival Corpse match. Gonta freezes, turning to her and saying, "Don't worry, I promise I will never hurt you." The next day, the Carnival Corpse begins. The announcer introduces the fighters: Gonta, the explosive rookie, against Minutsuki, the girl who moves at the speed of sound. Gonta apologizes to her that it came to this, reiterating that he doesn't want to fight. Minutsuki looks down, whispering, "I'm sorry too, Gonta." Then, out of nowhere, she slices her own earlobe, drawing blood to activate her branch of sin. In a literal flash, her whip-like blood constructs slash Gonta's leg, sending him crashing to the ground. Her warm facade completely vanishes, revealing her true, utterly psychotic and sadistic nature. Our poor protagonist is hit with the shock of his life. Minutsuki mocks him, laughing, "Your noble, white knight act literally made me want to vomit." Gonta gasps, "You were acting the whole time?" She bursts into a manic, evil laugh, her mouth looking a mile wide, shouting, "Of course I was, you complete moron." Furious, Gonta charges at her, but she effortlessly blocks his assault. Suddenly, Yo rushes into the arena, wearing the uniform of the guard he knocked out earlier. He shouts for Gonta to stop. Gonta freezes in shock as Minutsuki looks at Yo and snaps, "Brother?" Gonta gasps, "Brother?" Yo rushes toward her, crying, "I finally found you. Don't worry, I've I've amassed enough caste points to buy your freedom. We can finally be free, Minutsuki. The guards move to apprehend Yo, but Tamaki stops them via intercom, saying, let them play. The audience loves the drama. The more entertained they are, the more funding we get. He opens the protective glass. Minutsuki looks at Yo coldly. So, you actually came to this prison and saved all your money just for me? Yo turns to Gonta, saying, Gonta, please, I never thought you'd be the type of guy to beat up a girl. Gonta yells, Yo, it's not like that. Your sister completely played me. Minutsuki kicks Gonta down, slamming her foot onto his mouth. Understand the situation before you open your pathetic mouth, idiot, she snarls. She looks at her brother. This isn't Gonta's fault. I knew he was my opponent, but despite everything, I fell into his trap. I'm just so stupid. Gonta spits out, stop lying. He prepares his power, but Yo throws himself in front of his sister to shield her. Yo turns to her, saying, Minutsuki, you don't have to lie anymore. I will do whatever it takes to protect you. Seeing her brother's blind devotion, Minutsuki decides to reveal her true colors to him too. She smirks. You are absolutely obsessed with your little sister, aren't you? That's exactly why I wanted to see the absolute despair on your pathetic face. Why would I ever let you off without making you suffer? Yo is hit with the exact same soul-crushing shock Gonta experienced. Minutsuki binds him with her blood whips and begins violently thrashing him, screaming, stop saying you understand me, you hypocritical piece of trash. All men make me utterly sick. Gonta begs her to stop because he's her brother. Minutsuki laughs maliciously. Oh, look at you, feeling bad for your friend. Let me tell you something, moron. This guy isn't your friend. He's the type who only uses people. Tell me, Gonta, did he happen to bump into you and steal something from you? Gonta suddenly remembers his missing candy antidote. Yes, but he did all of that for you. To save enough money because he truly believed you were innocent of killing your father. He saved my life, and he helped me so much. Minutsuki scoffs. Boo-hoo, how tragic. She unleashes a massive strike that slams Gonta into a pillar. She then uses her own brother as a human shield so Gonta can't shoot her. Pushing through the pain, Gonta fires a precision blast, severing her blood threads and freeing Yo from her grip. Minutsuki binds Gonta's hands, but he forces his way close to her, looking her dead in the eye. You're an idiot, he says, because all you're doing is making yourself more miserable. Gonta delivers a massive, brutal headbutt right to her forehead, knocking her flat out on the ground. Gonta is declared the winner, but he firmly refuses to deliver a finishing blow to end her life. On the other side of the facility, we see Tamaki rolling his wheelchair toward a girl lying on the ground. He smiles, saying, You've awakened, Shiro. Are you ready to fulfill my dreams now? Back in the infirmary, Gonta visits Yo, who is standing by his sister's bedside. Gonta says, Yo, are you okay? I'm so sorry about what happened with your sister. Suddenly, a massive earthquake violently shakes the entire prison. Gonta's chest flashes with intense pain, and the flowers in the room shatter, but luckily they survive the tremor. Gonta rushes outside to see what caused the quake, instinctively sensing that Shiro is behind this. We cut to Shiro, who is muttering, I can hear the lullaby. Nearby, a man lies bleeding on the ground, completely pulverized by her. She whispers, they've reactivated the goo system, as she pulls a cover off a massive robot and steals a mask. Meanwhile, guards frantically order the evacuation of the wounded to the second floor and switch to emergency power lines. Gonta is navigating the chaotic corridors when a guard shoves him, yelling, get out of the way. Senji catches Gonta, steadying him. You know, during your entire match, I didn't move an inch from the TV screen. Loved your performance when you put that psycho brat in her place. Gonta looks at his eye patch, saying, Senji, I'm really sorry about your right eye. Senji laughs it off. Man, don't sweat it. That's just a regular Tuesday around here. Finally, we cut to Kiwako, who is furiously debating with staff about the missing security robot and the brutal massacre of the guards in the SR wing. The chief guard cuts her off grimly, stating that the recent event was absolutely no natural disaster. She reveals that this entire sector in northeast Tokyo, owned by Deadman Wonderland and the Netherlands, is the absolute epicenter of these supernatural anomalies. Just like the catastrophic Red Hole disaster from 10 years ago, something massive and terrifying is brewing here, especially considering this entire facility was built just 6 years ago. That's exactly why we need to take action right now. If nobody else steps up, I will do it myself. And if you all stay silent, I will tear you to pieces. You hear me? We then cut to Tamaki, who is speaking to the doctor and demanding that she impress him with the medical tests and scans she ran on Gonta. She explains to him that the mysterious red crystal embedded inside the boy's chest is actually a concentrated capsule made of femtomachines. She describes it as a strange, foreign material gathered together into a solid mass. After running their diagnostic checks, they discovered that this is the exact same substance that appeared all over the place immediately after the catastrophic red hole disaster. However, she notes that it is currently in an inactive state inside him. She explains that this is the missing link explaining why only the people who were inside the Kanto region during the disaster became carriers of the branch of Sin superpowers, as the material directly altered their biology when it entered their bodies. Hearing this, the greedy Tamaki immediately asks her if they can artificially replicate or mass-produce this material. The doctor sighs and tells him that, unfortunately, it's completely impossible because there is absolutely no way to examine or test the substance at its original source, which is the entity Wretched Egg, the Red Man. Tamaki mutters in frustration, calling the monster nothing more than the warden's puppet. He vents that even though he has been working at this facility for 5 long years, he hasn't been permitted to get anywhere near Wretched Egg, and he still has no clue what kind of face or identity is hiding behind that terrifying mask. He mentions that the security systems shielding the warden are so incredibly advanced that they could probably stop a direct cyber attack from the Pentagon. But regardless of that, Tamaki cracks a sinister smile, noting that the chief executive's health is rapidly failing and deteriorating. He boasts that it won't be long before this entire place falls directly under his own control, and once it does, he will run everything according to his own ruthless rules. What Tamaki doesn't know is that a short while ago, Shiro completely finished off Wretched Egg, the guy in the red cape, and stole his mask, meaning she has no idea that this is the exact entity Gonta has been searching for this whole time. On the other side of the sector, Gonta crosses paths with Minitsuki, whose aggressive and hostile personality flares right back up. The moment she sees him, she snarls, "You look like you're absolutely begging for death, you absolute piece of trash. Don't get cocky just because you managed to slip out of my hands during our match in the festival." Gonta calmly reminds her of the brutal penalty game she is about to be subjected to because she lost, but she just scoffs at him. "Please, that's nothing new to me," she snaps. "I've already lost a kidney and my stomach to those slot machines before." Gonta tries to walk away from her, but suddenly, a fierce female prisoner named Sukagawa steps into his path, delivering a crushing punch straight to Gonta's chest. The blow triggers intense acid reflux, causing him to collapse to the ground in severe pain. Looking up in absolute bewilderment, Gonta groans, "Who on earth are you, lady?" She casually offers a half-hearted apology, saying, "Oops, my bad. To be honest, I completely expected you to dodge that." On the other side, Yo is busy clandestinely stealing a massive stack of cast cards. Just as he prepares to make his exit, Tamaki corners him. Well, Yo, it's been quite a while since I've seen your face. What exactly brings you around here today?" Yo keeps his composure, lying that he is simply keeping a close eye on Gonta. Tamaki cracks a smile and tells him, "No, bravo, I know." At that moment, he introduces him to a monk named Genkaku. Tamaki says, "By the way, Yo, inside G Block, cast points are highly restricted and can only buy specific items, so pay close attention to this point. For instance, regular prisoners aren't allowed to buy their way out of minor penalty games, which means, unfortunately, your beloved little sister is going straight to play the penalty game." Fueled by absolute rage, Yo lunges at him, but Genkaku intercepts the attack, unleashing a series of rapid, devastating strikes with his specialized weapon, sending Yo crashing to the floor as all his stolen cast cards scatter across the tiles. We go back to Gonta, where the girl who punched him apologizes and introduces herself as Kayomesa. She reveals she is a member of Scar Chain, an underground resistance group. She explains that the sudden attack was merely a test of his physical strength before offering him an official invitation to join her group. Gonta looks at her in disbelief and says, "You literally just beat the living daylights out of me a moment ago, and now you want me to join your little club?" Just then, a man named Nagi enters the room to defuse the tension, saying, "I truly believe your harmony will be with us. Please accept my apologies for Kayomesa's incredibly harsh treatment." He introduces himself as the leader of the underground resistance movement called Scar Chain, declaring that their true enemy is the Deadman system itself. Their ultimate goal is to completely dismantle this entire cursed cage built by Warden Hagire and promoter Tamaki, and they currently need the largest number of allies. "After witnessing your incredible performance in the arena yesterday," Nagi explains, "I felt right away that you would be the perfect fit for our cause." Gonta politely declines, saying, "Excuse me, but I am in a desperate rush. Since I won yesterday, there will be a broadcast of the penalty game today, and I must stop it." As Gonta turns to run, Nagi stops him, pulling a set of fake teeth out of his mouth to reveal a hidden communication device wired directly to the arena, through which he talks to someone. At that time, Minitsuki stands before the audience as the slot machine rolls and stops, landing on a penalty that orders the executioners to violently shear off her hair. Relieved, Gonta turns to Nagi in shock and asks, "Did you guys honestly seriously do that? Nagi smiles subtly and says, let's just say we possess a few tricks of our own. Suddenly, the monk Genkaku breaks into their hidden sanctuary, his face twisted into a menacing grin. I smell the pathetic stench of a jailbreak brewing in here, he chants. It looks like you all are absolutely begging for a severe punishment, just like this piece of trash. With a dull thud, he violently throws a battered Yo onto the floor. Gonta gasps in horror at the sight of his cellmate. Kayomesa immediately goes on the offensive, lunging at him, but Genkaku effortlessly deflects her assault, shredding through her defense with his specialized weapon. Gonta fires a desperate blood blast, but Genkaku easily deflects his attack. Yo screams through the pain, Gonta, run. In that split second, Shiro drops down from the ceiling, delivering a fierce kick directly into Genkaku's face. Gonta feels overjoyed that she saved him. Afterward, the four of them successfully retreat deeper into the shadows, linking up with a guy named Rokuro. Kayomesa urgently asks if he successfully retrieved the data, and Rokuro proudly shows them a flash drive. Kayomesa begins mapping out their strategy. The entire facility is scheduled to undergo a rigorous, week-long government inspection. Because of this, all public and private Carnival Corps matches are strictly suspended during this week. Nagi steps forward, continuing, this is our moment. Our first, last, and only shot at a massive, collective deadman jailbreak. However, Rokuro interrupts, bringing a grim reality to the table. Their biggest obstacle is whether they can stand against the Undertakers or not. He explains that the Undertakers are the worst criminals whose rehabilitation is absolutely impossible. They undergo an intensive, terrifying conditioning program in the correctional facility and strictly execute the orders of Promoter Tamaki. Gonta realizes something crucial and says, yes, I remember now. That's why my branch of Sin blood blasts didn't even work against him. Rokuro brings up the security cameras he intercepted, slowing down the playback to reveal a terrifying truth. Genkaku successfully dodged the blood attacks. The remaining resistance men start mocking his abilities, so he leaves them and walks away. Meanwhile, in another place, Senji, Crow, is casually training in his cell. He says to Gonta, yeah, I've heard of the Undertakers. What about them? Gonta anxiously explains his encounter, asking, have you heard before that the branch of Sin doesn't work against them? Like, it splatters and vanishes? Senji laughs hoarsely and says, it's blood, so of course it will splatter. That's just physics. Gonta shakes his head and says, no, I mean it loses its explosive presence and completely disappears. Senji's face darkens, and he grabs Gonta by the collar, yelling, don't you dare tell me you fought an Undertaker and survived. You're trying to steal my spotlight. Gonta explains that the matter happened suddenly. Senji asks how it happened, so Gonta tells him that he was trapped alongside Nagi and Kayomesa when it occurred. Hearing this, Senji reveals the bitter animosity between Nagi and the Undertakers. 2 years ago, the executioners forced Nagi to face his own pregnant wife in a mandatory Carnival Corps match. Refusing to harm the woman he loved, Nagi intentionally threw the match, forfeiting his victory. As a consequence of his loss, the penalty game claimed his vocal cords, completely destroying his ability to speak naturally. To make matters worse, the promoter was completely insulted by Nagi's refusal to put on a real show and punished his wife as well. When Nagi and his wife desperately tried to escape the facility shortly after, the monk Genkaku personally hunted them down and ruthlessly slaughtered his pregnant wife right before his eyes. On the news, the Scar Chain group listens to a documentary detailing the history of the facility. It states that 10 years prior, a massive cataclysm known as the Red Hole disaster completely obliterated Tokyo, forcing the government to relocate the capital to Saitama. Out of the ashes of the ruined city, Deadman Wonderland was constructed in 2017 as a specialized, privately funded prison designed to aid in the economic recovery of the region, and they chose its location close to the site of the disaster. Now, the government has commenced its annual inspection of the prison, which will last for a week, concluding with a massive memorial service for the victims of the disaster. At that moment, Gonta enters the headquarters, bowing deeply to apologize to them for his erratic behavior the previous day because he let his emotions get the better of him, and he tells them that he wants to start a fresh page with them. Kayomesa smiles warmly and accepts him back into the fold. Nagi steps forward to clarify their true objective, explaining, our goal isn't just to sneak out or escape into the night. Our goal isn't just to sneak out or escape into the night. Our plan is to show the entire civilized world the exact nature of injustice and inhumanity inside this place. To achieve that, we need concrete, undeniable evidence. He points to the flash drive Rokuro pulled from a mainframe, saying, this drive contains highly classified data detailing Tamaki's illegal operations, human experimentation logs, and the truth behind the Carnival Corps, alongside other information that is completely capable of destroying this place forever. In plain Arabic, we are going to leak this flash drive to the whole world. Kayomasa takes charge of the tactical layout, explaining that first, they must completely disable G Block's main surveillance hub by infiltrating through the heavy freight elevator shaft. 5 minutes prior to their move, they plan to trigger a massive fire alarm to divide the prison guards, splitting themselves into 2 tactical teams, with Nagi and Rokuro heading straight to handle the primary control room. Inside the central security office of the Deadman surveillance hub, alarms blare as the monitors black out across Western G Block. Panicked tech operators immediately radio the Undertakers for urgent backup, and pay close attention to the little girl who was with him in the room playing, because she will confess later on. At that moment, Nagi and Rokuro unleash their devastating branch of sin powers upon them. When the operators call for security backup, Nagi tells them that the guards have already left, and they fire at them, but they easily deflect the bullets using their branch of sin constructs. On the other side, another girl named Tali from the Scar Chain team places a specialized scanning lens over her eye, preparing to bypass the heavily encrypted security doors. They reach a massive suspension bridge, where Kayomasa warns the group this bridge is rigged with highly sensitive weight sensors. If the system detects an anomaly with a higher or lower weight, the entire structure collapses into the abyss. However, Tali utilizes her blood constructs to realign the bridge, and they carefully begin to cross. Suddenly, the bridge begins to collapse as a terrifying security droid breaches the perimeter, unleashing a stream of highly corrosive acid onto one of the rebels, completely dissolving his flesh within seconds and shredding him apart. In the frantic chaos, Kayomasa hurls the flash drive across the fracturing bridge straight to Gonta, trying to hold the bridge together so she can escape with them, screaming at everyone to run. Gonta refuses to leave her behind and remains stubborn, but the remaining rebels forcefully drag him toward the exit. The droid fires another burst of acid onto her hand, severely burning her arm. She cries out, "The future of everyone here depends entirely on you, Gonta." Refusing to die, Kayomasa decides to fight. When the droid lunges at her, she unleashes the full extent of her branch of sin, enveloping her entire body in a shield of hardened blood armor as she charges directly into the machine, completely tearing it to pieces. On the upper decks, Nagi and Rokuro successfully lock down the main control hub. "We need to override the freight elevator controls right now," Nagi urges Rokuro. "The rest of the team should be at the extraction point any second if everything went according to plan." Suddenly, a seemingly innocent little girl named Katie steps out from the shadows. Nagi goes up to her and says, "Hey there, little one. What's your name? How old are you?" She looks up innocently, claiming her name is Katie, that she is a primary school student in the 2nd grade, and that she finished her daily chores and wanted to play for a bit. Nagi turns to Rokuro, his heart breaking for the child, saying she must have gotten separated from her family during a public tour. He tells Rokuro to activate the elevator, adding that the place here is dangerous, so they will keep her safe with them. And then, out of nowhere, Rokuro looks up from a console and tells Nagi with a sinister smirk, "The elevator override isn't responding, Nagi, because this was never part of the plan." In a chilling instant, Katie drops her backpack, pulling out a massive, mechanized weapon. She giggles maniacally, revealing that she is the commander of the 3rd Undertaker Division, and it's time to punish the naughty, disobedient boys. This girl is completely unhinged. Nagi instantly fires a barrage of blood spheres, but his kinetic energy completely vanishes right in front of Katie, who begins shredding through him with her weapon, reciting the 21st maxim of Ritsuko, "We will cleanse your sins, your blood will return to normal, and I will make you a regular person again." She extends her weapon and calls it the Worm Eater, which actively neutralizes and dissolves the nameless worm organisms thriving inside the bloodstream of branch of sin users, completely vaporizing their powers on impact. Rokuro bursts into a mocking, psychotic laughter, saying, "Just give up and surrender quietly, Nagi." Refusing to let their dream die, Nagi tries to find a way to complete the plan at any cost, firing another burst of blood constructs, but Katie ruthlessly shreds through it, telling him he is wasting his time for nothing, and she brutally beats him down as well. On the other side, the remaining rebels wait anxiously for the elevator to arrive, deeply worried about Nagi and Rokuro. We go back to Nagi, whom Katie cuts into pieces like chicken tenders until he refers to her as a child. This completely infuriates Katie, who screams that she is a respectable lady and not a child. Nagi provokes her further, saying a respectable lady wouldn't do the horrific thing she does. Katie bursts into tears, continuously striking him until she completely severs his arm. Nagi hurls his severed arm at her, hits Rokuro, and manages to open the elevator doors, collapsing onto the floor. The moment the heavy metal doors finally slide open, the team drops their jaws. Standing over Nagi's mangled body is the monk Genkaku, his face twisted in sadistic glee. The white-haired girl is not with you," he snickers enters, unleashing a rapid flurry of lethal strikes that completely wipes out and shreds the remaining resistance fighters. Gonta falls to his knees in absolute terror, the flash drive slipping from his trembling hands on the floor. Before Genkaku can finish off Gonta, a security alert calls him away, forcing him to leave the premises. On the other side, Shiro encounters a mysterious inmate, and a strange dialogue takes place between them. We return to the remaining survivors who managed to escape. Shiro runs up to Gonta and asks him about the flash drive. He shows it to her, but she grabs it and fearlessly hurls it straight into a nearby incinerator, turning around to ask him with complete innocence, "Are you okay, Gonta?" Of course, Gonta completely loses his temper at her. He could have finished her off right there, but he stands frozen in utter shock. The other girl yells at her, "What did you do to the flash drive?" Shiro explains that she came to check on Gonta, but she saw a mysterious stranger who warned her about the device. Gonta barks at her in absolute rage, screaming, "Don't tell me you joined the forces of that wretched monk." Shiro looks around in confusion and says, "Why is everyone so angry?" Gonta violently strikes Shiro across the face, roaring, "I never want to see your face ever again." Meanwhile, as the remaining resistance fighters gather together, Kayomesa enters the room. Everyone feels overjoyed that she is still alive, and they all agree not to give up and to expose the horrifying truth of the prison to the outside world. On the other side, we see Nagi, who is being held by Genkaku. He doesn't understand why Genkaku is keeping him alive. Genkaku tells him to join their ranks among the Undertakers. In another sector of the facility, Chief Guard Makina stands with her assistant, asking about the progress of copying the data. Makina says, "Excellent. Within an hour, Tamaki's meeting with the government inspectors will conclude. We must duplicate every single piece of data regarding these illegal experiments before the hour ends." Suddenly, they notice someone entering the hall, forcing them to quickly hide in the shadows. Promoter Tamaki enters the room alongside a high-ranking official named Oichai, who demands, "Tell me, how is the manufacturing phase progressing?" Tamaki sighs, admitting, "We are still searching for a permanent method to synthesize the nameless worm technology directly into the human bloodstream, but we have successfully learned how to engineer new bioweapons by exposing regular inmates to the infected carriers." Makina gasps silently, saying to herself, "Isn't that Oichai from the Ministry of Defense? Synthesis and carriers?" Oichai barks, "I don't want this matter to end up with us having nothing but copies of unmanageable monsters." While the remaining team members are discussing their next move, the traitor Rokuro bursts into the room. Everyone rushes to check on him, completely unaware that a venomous snake is standing in their midst. When Kayomesa anxiously asks about Nagi's whereabouts, Rokuro's true face is revealed, and he breaks into a psychotic grin, saying, "Who do you think ruined my plan? Who do you think knew that the flash drive was actually a bomb?" They look at him in shock, asking, "What nonsense are you talking about? You're the one who engineered the flash drive yourself." Rokuro laughs mockingly and says, "Did you really not know that the flash drive never contained any classified data that could condemn Deadman Wonderland? It was merely a small bomb engineered to explode and wipe out every single one of you." Everyone stands paralyzed by the absolute depth of his atrocity. At that moment, Gonta reflects on his actions, realizing that Shiro was only trying to protect him from the bomb. Rokuro sneers and says, "Since you are all still alive, I have another mission for you." We go back to Nagi, who tells Genkaku, an Undertaker, "Join your ranks. Speak some sense, man." Genkaku prepares another syringe and says, "We've been hunting you down for 2 years. Everyone in this group has a screw loose in their head, but none of them match your absolute insanity. You belong with us." He plunges the needle into him. Nagi spits blood into his face, roaring, "Do you think I will ever join the monster who slaughtered my wife?" Genkaku merely laughs and says, "Aren't you worried about your current friends? I am absolutely certain you will change your mind very soon, because we are going to butcher them one by one right in front of your eyes." On the other side, Rokuro tells the survivors that they are being held hostage until Nagi changes his mind. When Kayomesa prepares to lunge at him, one of Rokuro's enforcers drops down from above, followed immediately by the remaining guards. Rokuro sneers, "Let's see who we are going to execute first," pointing straight at poor Gonta, whose face is pouring down with sweat. We cut to Shiro, who remembers the mysterious person standing with her who warned her that the flash drive was going to explode. Shiro mutters that she exerted all her effort just to save Gonta. Afterward, she sits down to eat as usual, not caring about anything more than food, but her tears begin to roll down as she feels incredibly sorry for herself. On the other side, the the mentally unhinged Rokuro tells them, "We are going to throw an execution party right here to force Nagi to join the Undertakers." Rokuro leans close to Gonta's face and says, "By the way, you never told me your opinion on the courtroom video that framed you and sealed your conviction. The truth is, it was far more successful than I ever anticipated. I can't believe a forged video that doesn't even exceed 1 minute could influence people to this extent. This means that even if you manage to escape from here, you will find someone waiting to kill you outside the walls of this prison." Gonta collapses to the ground in absolute terror. The brutal enforcers Mozuri and his deputy Doko step forward to finish Gonta off, but at that exact moment, Senji, Crow, crashes through the wall and saves him from their hands. Witnessing his bravery, the rest of the team finds their courage and successfully frees themselves from their restraints. We cut back to Shiro, who is lying on the ground, deeply saddened. At that moment, the mysterious boy she saw earlier appears before her and asks, "Did you forget about me?" On the other side, Genkaku has finished injecting multiple syringes into Nagi, but Nagi defiantly barks that he will never join them. Genkaku mockingly reminds him of how he slaughtered his wife 2 years ago. We return to Gonta, who is consumed by immense guilt for his horrific behavior toward Shiro, realizing she saved his life while he struck her across the face. He runs straight to Senji, begging the veteran warrior to train him because he wants to grow stronger and completely destroy his own weakness. Senji smiles grimly and says, "Your stubbornness is the only thing I actually like about you, Gonta. Are you absolutely certain you want this? Pursuing this kind of justice is like stepping into a swamp. It will drag you straight to the gates of hell." Senji activates his blood blade construct using his branch of sin, and Gonta quickly cuts himself as well to unleash his own power. We cut to Shiro, who is eating as usual, sitting alongside the boy from earlier, who reveals his name is Moko. Shiro bursts into tears as she remembers what Gonta did to her, eating even more voraciously, crying out that she hates Gonta and is going to go beat him up. We move to Kayomesa, who disguises herself in a prison guard's uniform. She reflects on her past conversation with Nagi, where he showed her the necklace his wife gave him, containing a picture of their unborn child so it could remain with him wherever he goes, stating that just knowing his child is out there keeps a spark of hope alive in his heart. On the other side, Senji is training Gonta, barking at him, "This is the 11th time you've been beaten down. You're taking too long, your blasts are still incredibly weak, and it's so easy to read their path. What's worse is that they are entirely too slow. At this rate, you aren't anywhere close to breaking the sound barrier. Your body must treat your blood control as a natural extension of your own limbs." Gonta asks, "But how?" Senji asks him, "Do you have any candy antidotes left with you?" Gonta replies, "Yes, these are all I have left." Senji grabs them and violently crushes them onto the floor under his boot. Gonta gets furious. Senji holds a piece of candy in his hand and tells Gonta, "Try to break through my defense and knock this candy from my hand." While Gonta and Senji are training, Moko walks into the room and says to Gonta, "Do you know Shiro? She actually said she was coming to beat you up, but then she ran away." Moko turns to Senji and says, "It's been a long time, man. I haven't seen you around. What's the news?" Senji replies, "You're the one who vanished. Where on earth have you been?" Moko briefly clashes with Senji, licking his blood, but Senji quickly pushes him away. Gonta asks, "Who on earth is this person?" Senji explains that Moko is one of the strongest fighters in Deadman Wonderland and is completely bloodthirsty. Senji barks at Moko to leave since Shiro didn't come here. When Gonta asks about Shiro's location, Moko doesn't answer him and simply walks away. We cut to Tamaki, who is speaking to Genkaku during the annual inspection festival, telling him, "I want to start manufacturing a new puppet. Please end your little game as quickly as possible." Genkaku smiles and replies, "By the way, I successfully obtained the item you wanted." We see Nagi, who has turned completely feral and wild, ruthlessly finishing off one of the prison guards with absolute brutality. Tamaki asks in surprise, "What on earth is that sound?" Genkaku laughs hoarsely and says, "That is the sound of a beautiful new red rose blooming." On the other side, Kayomesa is moving covertly while disguised among the guards, but suddenly, the foolish Shiro wanders right into the open. The guards immediately raise their weapons against her. Kayomesa rushes over to her, whispering fiercely, "What are you doing here? You aren't supposed to be here at all." Suddenly, Genkaku walks up to them, asking, "What is going on here?" Kayomesa tries to shield her, claiming the girl is just lost, but Genkaku instantly recognizes her voice. He delivers a brutal strike, knocking the mask completely off off her face. At that exact moment, Gonta is still training, and he finally manages to unleash a supersonic blood blast that completely explodes the candy and shatters the surrounding area. Suddenly, Genkaku's voice broadcasts across every monitor in the facility, addressing the Scar Chain group. He demands their immediate surrender, showcasing that they have captured the two girls and are going to publicly execute them. Kayomesa screams into the microphone, telling them not to listen to him and to escape immediately. Gonta cannot bear the thought of anything happening to his beloved Shiro, so he bolts straight toward her coordinates. On the other side, the remaining resistance fighters feel deeply frustrated that Kayomesa went out alone, but they reflect on how she wanted to handle the escape, so they decide to move out as well. However, they don't know which path to take. Even Gonta mutters to himself, could it be that Kayomesa and the others left without me? Is it possible they thought I was completely useless? Suddenly, a squad of prison guards corners him, pinning him down and beating him brutally. Out of nowhere, Minutsuki appears, effortlessly taking out the guards. She points toward the corridor and says, the Undertaker's headquarters is in that direction. When Gonta asks her to come along with him, she flatly refuses, stating she has absolutely no interest in escaping the prison like the Scar Chain group. Gonta looks at her and says, in any case, thank you for the help. I will find a way to get you out of here later, and he runs off. On the other side, the Scar Chain team is actively fighting off the prison guards. When Gonta finally reaches the main base, he utilizes a highly concentrated, condensed, and much sharper amount of blood to bypass their armor, since regular branch of Sin attacks don't work against these guards. He successfully manages to destroy them. The moment Gonta collapses to the floor in pure exhaustion, Shiro runs up to him, but she is suddenly intercepted by the little executioner Katie. Gonta desperately tries to reach her, but he is completely unable to walk due to the massive amount of blood he lost during his grueling training session with Senji. Suddenly, Genkaku opens the heavy doors behind them. Kayomesa runs straight toward Nagi, but he growls at her, don't come any closer. Please. I have completely lost my mind. Kayomesa cries out to him, we are all going to escape together. Have you forgotten that your child is waiting for you outside? Nagi screams in pure agony, my child? Genkaku slaughtered my wife, and my child was still inside her womb. How could a child possibly survive what they did to her mother? Every single time I remember, I am completely paralyzed with pure rage. At that moment, Nagi's eyes ignite with absolute evil, completely driven into a feral state by the heavy narcotics injected into his veins by Genkaku, leaving him unable to see anything except a desire to slaughter humans. He roars at them, why did my wife and child have to die? Why did I survive? And why did you survive? I survived only for my mind to drown in eternal regret forever. He unleashes his devastating branch of Sin, triggering a massive explosion and ruthlessly slaughtering anyone in the room, one by one. When he lunges forward to deliver a final, lethal blow to Shiro, Gonta throws himself directly in front of her, taking the full, crushing force of the strike in her place. Bleeding heavily, Gonta stands before him and pleads, telling him that there is still mercy, love, and hope hidden deep within his heart. The words break through the narcotic fog, and Nagi reflects on the memory of his beloved wife, completely regaining his sanity. Kayomesa rushes forward and warmly embraces him, but the moment she turns her face, Genkaku's blade violently pierces right through her torso from behind. Nagi bursts into a desperate, weeping cry over her. Enraged by the absolute cruelty, Gonta unleashes two consecutive branch of Sin blasts at Genkaku, but they fail to leave a single scratch. While Nagi is holding the weeping Kayomesa, she utilizes her remaining blood constructs to try and heal her own wounds. Genkaku turns to Nagi and says mockingly, I carefully avoided her heart and lungs, but I completely shattered her bones. He tells him that Kayomesa is deeply in love with him, which is exactly why he must execute her and cleanse everything. Genkaku barks, you were supposed to be a demon, Nagi. You were supposed to slaughter everyone and release them from the agonizing pain of this miserable world. When Nagi flatly refuses, Genkaku ruthlessly strikes him with his weapon, literally tearing through his torso. Afterward, he begins cutting down the guards one by one. Suddenly, Gonta's collar begins to blare a lethal countdown warning because he hasn't consumed his candy antidote in days, and his veins begin to bulge rapidly. Genkaku looks at him and snickers. It looks like the poison is incredibly painful. Suddenly, Gonta clutches his chest in agonizing pain. Genkaku chants, I will continue to release people from their pain. This world is nothing but betrayal, terror, injustice, and sorrow. At that moment, Shiro steps forward to shield Gonta, but Gonta stands defiantly in front of her and says, leave this final strike to me. He unleashes the full extent of his branch of Sin, but this time, the blast is unprecedentedly powerful, far greater than any time before. Nagi looks at Genkaku and growls, you are coming with me straight to hell. Gonta unleashes a colossal blast that completely nearly obliterates Genkaku in a spectacular explosion. Afterward, Shiro collapses to the floor, and Gonta runs straight over to Nagi. With his final breath, Nagi hands Gonta his remaining candy antidote, whispering, "Eat this quickly. I am leaving now, and I no longer need it." Kayomasa continuously weeps over her beloved Nagi with a burning heart as he passes away peacefully in her arms. Gonta consumes the antidote, and Shiro wakes up, looking at him and asking, "Aren't you going to go outside? Isn't that what you truly wanted?" Gonta looks down and tells her that he cannot possibly leave without his friends. He gently apologizes to her for striking her across the face and holds her close. Meanwhile, the remaining members of the resistance team have finally broken through the perimeter and escaped outside the walls of Deadman Wonderland. Our story concludes with Gonta and Shiro sitting quietly on the shattered roof of the prison facility. Shiro begins to softly hum her melody, and Gonta gently turns to her and says, "Please, Shiro, don't ever sing that lullaby again. That was the exact same song the Red Man was singing on the day he slaughtered all my classmates." Shiro falls completely silent, staring out into the distance. And that's it. I hope you all enjoyed our episode today. If you liked it, please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to the channel, and turn on the notification bell so you can receive all of our latest updates right away. See you all in many more new episodes and upcoming parts as soon as they drop.